The next time you take your trip to the supermarket, take a look around. No doubt you're a pro at navigating the aisles. But even the most seasoned shopper may be surprised to discover the secrets your supermarket is hiding. Could those secrets put your health at risk? Well, today, we're uncovering the secrets your supermarket doesn't want you to know. And what you're about to see may make you rethink how you feed your family. You think you know all the hidden hazards hiding in your supermarket. And all the tricks to keep your family safe. Like buying that carton of milk from the back where it's colder. Your shopping cart could be loaded with microscopic fecal matter. You know that the sprays keeping your produce dewy fresh might just be festering dangerous bacteria. And even if your bagged salad says it's pre-washed, you wash it anyway. But guess what? Today I'm taking you to a whole new level. Digging deeper than ever before to bring you the new secrets that your supermarket doesn't want you to know. Even secrets that could be making you fat and broke. Roy Costa is a food safety instructor, and after his 30 years in the food industry, he's not afraid to blow the whistle on what they don't want you to know. So how is it, Roy, that most folks don't know these secrets that you're going to share with us?
Well, you got to remember, Dr. Ross, I've been on the other side of the picture for quite some time. So I've got inside information. Now, most of the time, the supermarket people just want the consumer to have a good time in the supermarket. They don't want them to be thinking about quality or safety. It's sort of like a given, and so those things are just not made evident.
Well, some of the things you've shared with us make me concerned about that assumption. So let's move on to the first secret, and it's in the dairy section. It's your eggs. And I'm going to ask one of our audience members, Michelle, to join us. How are you, Michelle?
How are you?
You go shopping for eggs very often?
Every week, buy about a dozen.
Buy a dozen eggs every week?
Yes.
Okay, so let me just arrange these a little bit for you. Before you pick anything here. Now, I'm just going to, it may not seem like what I'm doing is important. Let me just be moving them around a little bit here and there. I want you to just go into this egg aisle here, section, and just pick out the egg carton that you would typically pick out, and show me what you'd do.
I would take right from the top.
Okay.
And inspect and see which one looked the best, and if not, I just go on to the next one.
So let's look in here. So you opened it up in there, and those eggs look pretty normal.
Yeah, they look pretty good.
Looking for cracks?
Maybe I'd go on to the next one at the top. I usually take from the top.
Okay. So there's no cracked eggs. That's a good sign. And you've taken it from the top. Makes perfect sense.
Right.
Roy, did you do everything right?
Well, yes and no. It's good to check the eggs, make sure that they're not cracked. You wouldn't want to bring any of those home. But what you did by taking the eggs from the top was you took the eggs that were above what we call the cold line or the load limit line.
Have you ever heard of that term?
No.
Had any of you heard of that term? And it's remarkable. I'd never heard of it. So define this load limit line. What does that mean?
Well, this is something that's either painted or you see the little dots like this on a display case, and that's put there by the manufacturer of the equipment, and it's there so that the operator of the supermarket doesn't put product above that, because below it, it's going to stay cold according to the manufacturer's design, and above it, it's not. So we should never see the grocery store stacking things above that line.
Can I say this a little differently?
Okay.
As a physician, if these eggs are above this load line or this cold line, they're not able to stay as cold as they're supposed to stay. So they sweat, and so bacteria can grow in that sweat. And in effect, this is becoming an incubator. I mean, little chicks can start growing out of these things. So when you buy a dozen eggs at the supermarket and you grab one of these cartons, you always want it to stay under 45 degrees, never warmer than that. And getting the eggs above this load line means you may have passed that. You're not guaranteed that you're getting eggs that are truly as cold as they're supposed to be.
Okay.
So from now on, make sure you're getting them from one lower if you need to.
Okay.
And check for the cracks. It's a good idea.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, the second secret your supermarket doesn't want you to know about is found in the bakery section. And Roy, come on over. We've talked a little bit in the past about how to look for fresh foods, and it often will say fresh baked when you look at grains, for example. What should consumers know about that term?
Well, they're probably being baked fresh the day you get them. But you have to remember that a lot of these products are kept in a freezer, perhaps up to a year before they're baked off.
A year?
Yes, sir.
So it's mixed into the dough, but it's kept for a year before they actually serve it to you?
That's right. They can keep it that long. The shelf life on these products is quite long under a freezer.
So is there a health concern if you're eating something that's as old as you're describing?
Well, probably not for baked goods and things of that nature. Those types of ingredients, they're shelf stable for quite some time. But for something like meat, this idea of thawing and refreezing and thawing again, that probably wouldn't be a good idea.
All right, so we got meats covered. The third item, the third secret, involves something we do a lot around here, which is lighting. I had never thought about this, but let me show you something that's very interesting that Roy pointed out to us. So here we've got some produce. It looks very appetizing, I gather, right? You all see it here? But the produce, when it's set up under a green light, looks like this. Watch what happens if I take this green filter out. One more time. There's with the green light, and that's with the white light. Now, let me go one step further, because I think this is pretty interesting. Look at this red meat, which is, I think, very appetizing. It happens to have a little bit of red light shine on it. Watch what happens if I remove the filter. Okay. One more time again. See how nice it is with that red filter on there? You take that out, not quite so appetizing. So, Roy, is this a health violation?
Actually, that is a health violation. Now, sometimes what you see in a supermarket, you'll see a green produce sign above the produce section, or you'll see a red meat sign above the meat section. If the inspector determines that that's there to deceive the public, then at that point, they can do something about it. Of course, it's hard to prove that type of thing because you're never quite sure whether it was just sort of the way they market themselves or what they're actually trying to do. So the best thing to do is walk away from that light for a minute and examine the product on your own.
So you grab the meat, walk away with it, to check it under normal lights and bring it back.
Yes.
So this is a rule of thumb here from now on. Next time, when you walk into this produce section or the meat section, you look up. Look at the lights first, and then look down at the food. Make sense? Up first, down. All right. Our last secret is perhaps the most surprising. And it's this whole concept of the use-by date. You all seen it on little packages, right? It's some prepackaged foods. They'll tell you use by something. And we see this all the time in our foods.
Yes.
How valuable is that as a tool for us in guiding when we buy our products?
Well, that's a valuable tool. And you'll see different types of use-by dates. You'll see a use-by date that's put on a product by the manufacturer. Now, that can't be changed. But if you can also see a use-by date that was put on the food by the supermarket for foods that they process and package. Now, the supermarket has the authority to put that use-by date on, and they can change it. They can change it repeatedly all the way up to actually where the product is probably no longer really sellable, just to try to take advantage of being able to sell it.
Well, how can you tell whether it was placed there by the manufacturer or where the supermarket placed it?
You're going to have to ask the grocer about that.
That could be an uncomfortable conversation.
Could be. Although if you have faith in your grocer, and you should, he's going to level, or she's going to level with you.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Francis Largeman Roth is a health expert, registered dietitian, and a New York Times best-selling author. So help me understand this a little bit. How is it that supermarkets are tricking us into buying more things that we actually had on our shopping list?
Well, Dr. Oz, they are in the business of making money. So the longer you stay in the store, the more you spend. And they do all kinds of tricks to get you to stay in there longer. One of them is piping in very slow, soothing elevator music so that you sort of meander through the aisles. And then another one is to have these in-store bakeries and cafes and delis. You know, you sample, you get a cup of coffee, and then you're in there longer. You can end up spending $50 more per trip.
And they have that odor that comes at you.
Absolutely.
So we're about to reveal the best-kept secrets your supermarket doesn't want you to know. Let's start off with the worst day to shop in the supermarket. Which one is it?
Do not shop on Monday.
Mondays. We're all there on Mondays?
Do not go. Okay, the reason why is because on the weekends it's so busy and all the fresh produce and all the fresh meats and dairy, it's all decimated. And then they don't get their new supply until Monday or Tuesday, which means the best day to shop is Wednesday.
You have a new shopping day, everybody.
Yeah.
I like that. Well, I usually go to the supermarket if I'm going to go with Lisa on a weekend. And I suspect that's true for a lot of folks here. Is that not a good thing to do?
Well, if you have to, you have to, but it's not great because it's going to be crowded, which means the lines are longer, which means, guess what? You're staying in the store longer, buying more, and also they have these crafty little displays set up, oftentimes around the holidays or around things you might do on the weekend, and that gets you to buy more.
Another little crafty thing I see all the times is something called the manager's special.
Oh, yeah.
Is that a good idea or a bad idea?
Run away. That is actually a warning sign. It is something that they want to move. The expiration date is coming. Really look at those. If you're attracted to that manager's special, it is something they want to get out of the store, so do not put it in your shopping cart.
All right, and of all the things you've described, what do you think is the biggest culprit that may be adding pounds around our waists?
Well, let's take a look at what's on the table. It would be the samples, the in-store samples. So I can smell them from right here. And so they get you to stop, they get you to sample, and they get you to spend more. This can add up to several hundred calories, right?
So I picked a couple examples here. I had never thought of this as a potential culprit until brought to my attention. So we did a little experiment. We picked chicken fingers, which you can never have just one, right? As soon as you start, you're going to have a couple pieces of them. They may chop it up a little bit, but if you end up eating one of these chicken fingers, which is a pretty common affair, it's 270 calories. 270 calories. And how about these spring rolls, right? With a little bit of dipping sauce here, if you eat one of these spring rolls, 160 calories. And the biggest culprit of all for me would be cheese, which I never think of as a major problem. But if you had a little bit of Swiss cheese on French bread, it's also 160 calories. So let me restate it. If you ate everything that I showed you here, just one sample of each of these things, walking through the store, which would not be an unreasonable problem to run into, 590 calories for the day. That's crazy. And the whole point of them giving out the samples is for you to buy the product. So in theory, you're probably going to buy a box of some of these things.
Yeah.
If you purchased a box of each of these things that I'm showing here, it's almost $40 on your grocery bill.
And that's why you have to shop from a list. Always make a list.
Is that the biggest tip?
Yes, it is. That is my biggest tip, because then you are not going to be distracted by these things. Keep focusing on the list, and you're going to put good stuff on there, all the healthy stuff that you talk about.
Right. List ahead of time, shop on Wednesdays, and avoid the samples.
That's right.
Now, we're all doing our part to save the environment by shopping with reusable bags, but could they be making us sick? So we asked everybody in our audience here today to bring in their reusable bags to see just how clean or dirty they are. And we tested them all before the show, and I have some very interesting results that may make some of you unhappy. Jennifer, come on up and join me, Jennifer. Thank you for being part of our experiment. How are you? How often do you use your shopping bag?
All the time. I leave them in my car.
You do?
For convenience.
Yeah, and it's good that you're doing this. I
Yeah.
mean, it helps save the environment. So I'm gonna do a little experiment on your bag.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take the inside of the bag out, inside out, and this little device is gonna help me measure whether there's anything bad in here or not.
Okay.
Hold it like that if you don't mind. So we can actually measure to see if there's any bugs on this.
Ew.
Are they making, when I see bugs, I
There
mean
might
bacteria.
be, actually. I leave them in my car.
Well, I'm just taking a little swab here of this area, okay?
Okay.
And then I put it in my test tube, handy dandy, squish that, right? Then you sort of dance like this. Dance like this, get like this. Good. All right, this is what we do in the science labs. Just make it more fun, okay? Then we open up the gizmo, throw it in there, pop it in, close it, and press OK. And while this is counting down, it takes a few seconds for it to calculate. Let me explain what we're looking for.
Okay.
We're trying to figure out if your score, in other words, the amount of life forms on this thing, is under 80. Right? You want it to be under 80. That means that it's relatively clean.
Okay.
Your number? 1,252. Why don't you hold that yourself? So, I mean, that bag is filthy.
Yes.
Have you
Well,
ever-
it's probably because, I use it for milk for the heavy things and some fresh produce.
fresh produce?
Yeah.
So what do you think about that now?
I think it's disgusting.
All right, so listen, when someone has a bag that they've
Right.
been using for a while, there's a pretty good chance they're going to have a high number like you had. And
Right.
again, stuff spills in there. It's organic
You never really
stuff.
think to wash them either.
No, that didn't occur to most folks until we started talking about this. And when you do your homework on this, and that's why we sampled your bags, it turns out that you actually are exposing your family quite a bit. Now, the question is, how can you use these bags, which do make sense for the environment, and still keep your family safe?
Right.
So here's the general rule of thumb. Every 10 times you use it, every 10 times you use your reusable bag, you need to clean it.
Okay.
That's doable. reality, right?
Yes.
For these cloth bags, you just toss it in the washing machine.
Right.
When you wash your clothes, just throw it in there. Same thing, nothing fancy. If it's a plastic bag, use one of those bleach scrubs or sprays.
okay.
It's simple to do. It takes 2 seconds.
Right.
But it's such an easy thing to do. Why take a chance with 1,252 as a count? Imagine all those little bugs having a feast in there and enjoying your produce. You can leave that here if you want. I'll have environmental control take it away. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss out on new videos to live the good life.